Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the massive hype, the jaw-dropping numbers, and honestly, the stark financial realities of the current AI boom. I mean, we're constantly hearing about groundbreaking artificial intelligence, right? But behind the scenes, there's a frantic race going on. So we're going to look closely at the data to answer one burning question that's literally keeping investors up at night. Will this skyrocketing AI industry ever truly make money, or is this all just one massive, incredibly expensive bubble? Let's get into it.
All right, Section 1, the Musk versus OpenAI conflict, which is shaping up to be quite the high-stakes billionaire drama.
To understand the sheer scale of what's happening in AI right now, we really have to look at the power struggle at its absolute center. Just consider this number for a second. Elon Musk is suing OpenAI's founders, Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, and he's demanding the cancellation of their for-profit status, their immediate removal from the company, and an eye-watering $150 billion in damages. Yep, you heard that right, billion with a B. He claims that by shifting from a nonprofit to a profit-driven model, they essentially betrayed the original mission of the company.
And the level of betrayal Musk felt here is really something else. This quote is pulled directly from a pretty scathing 2017 email that was revealed in court documents. In it, Musk flat out accused his colleagues of treating him like a fool, basically using him to secure, quote, free funding for your startup. It paints a picture of a deeply personal, really bitter fallout over the future of artificial intelligence.
But what's truly fascinating about all this is the contradiction it reveals. Because despite his current anger over OpenAI's pursuit of profit, court evidence shows that back in 2015, Musk himself actually proposed setting up a for-profit arm right alongside the nonprofit foundation. It just goes to show you exactly how complex and fiercely competitive the race to control AI has been right from the very beginning.
Moving on to Section 2, massive AI infrastructure investment, fueling the tech gold rush.
Let's zoom out from this personal lawsuit for a second, because honestly, the drama in the courtroom is really just a symptom of the astronomical sums of money fueling the AI gold rush right now. The contrast in investment scales here is literally mind-blowing. The big four tech giants, often called the hyperscalers, are projecting to spend over $700 billion on AI investments this year alone. To put that staggering figure into perspective, that completely dwarfs the estimated $430 billion corporate investment of the entire United Kingdom. Just think about that. 4 companies are outspending the entire corporate sector of the world's 5th largest economy. Absolutely wild.
So who exactly is spending all this cash? Well, it's those hyperscalers like Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft, alongside heavily indebted neo-cloud companies like CoreWeave and Lambda. They're pouring billions into cloud computing and data centers. If we're looking at this as the great AI gold rush, these companies are essentially the ones manufacturing and selling the pickaxes, They're building out the massive computing infrastructure required to make AI work at all.
Meanwhile, the companies that are actually building the AI models are scaling at a speed we've rarely seen in business history. Just look at Anthropic. They recently announced they have over 300,000 corporate clients, and their run rate revenue has jumped from roughly $1 billion to a phenomenal $30 billion in just over a year. The growth is explosive, for sure, and the adoption is incredibly rapid.
Okay, Section 3, the profit paradox. High costs, delayed returns.
Now, despite this explosive growth and the astronomical spending we just looked at, we're running headfirst into a massive roadblock, and the entire tech industry desperately needs to address this if the momentum is going to last. A recent survey by McKinsey highlights the crucial point. A massive 94% of corporate respondents haven't actually seen major value from their AI investments yet. Literally almost everyone is buying the tools, but hardly anyone is seeing a real boost to their bottom line. Well, at least not yet.
We call this the profit paradox. Massive, historic investments are being poured into AI infrastructure and software, but the corporate users actually deploying it just aren't seeing immediate financial returns. And honestly, this is terrifying for the AI industry. Why? Because this separate survey shows that 2/3 of chief information officers say they will absolutely freeze or cut their AI budgets by mid-2026 if they don't start seeing a return on investment.
And the pressure to figure this out is mounting rapidly. The total AI-related corporate debt has now surpassed an incredible $300 billion. As long as investors keep throwing money at them, sure, the building will continue. But eventually, these AI applications actually have to generate enough profit to justify that $300 billion of debt. Which leads us to Section 4, unlocking the revenue model, the search for profitability.
So how do these companies actually build out a plan to bridge that gap? I mean, how do you turn a wildly expensive cash-burning technology into a sustainable business? When you look at the monetization gap between these companies, the problem becomes super obvious. Established giants like Alphabet make about $100 per user per year, mostly through ads. Meta makes roughly $70. But OpenAI, despite having hundreds of millions of users, experts calculate they're only pulling in about $10 per user annually.
Which brings us to the central, really existential question for the survival of pure AI startups. How do you take a billion users and multiply their revenue tenfold, moving them from $10 a year to $100 a year? You can't just rely on a handful of premium subscription upgrades to close a gap that wide. There's just no way.
Experts suggest the answer is one the tech industry knows very, very well: advertising. Leveraging the vast amounts of deeply personal user data collected during AI chats for highly targeted ads might just be the ultimate key to unlocking the AI economic model. In fact, Alphabet is already proving this works. Their CEO recently noted that integrating AI into Google Search helped boost their search revenue by an impressive 19%.
And because of this potential for massive profit, the competition to capture monetizable users is fierce across all fronts. You've got giants like Google and Meta battling for everyday consumer dominance. You have Anthropic and OpenAI fighting viciously over lucrative corporate and coding clients, and looming in the background, the disruptors. Incredibly cheap or even completely free open-source models like DeepSeek R1 that threaten to undercut everyone's profit margins.
All right, Section 5. Is AI a bubble? Looking to history for answers. With all this cash burning, the mounting debt, and the incredibly intense competition, we really have to pull back and ask the ultimate macroeconomic question. Are we just repeating history here? Looking back, the economist and venture capitalist Bill Janaway points out that the current AI boom looks strikingly similar to the massive 19th century railroad expansion and the wild dot-com internet era of the late 1990s and 2000s.
But Janeway uses a very specific term for these eras. He calls them productive bubbles. This means that even if the market gets totally overheated and crashes, society isn't left empty-handed. We're left with incredibly valuable physical assets. The 1800s left us with a transcontinental rail network. The 2000s left us with miles of fiber optic cables. In today's AI boom, it's leaving us with a staggering grid of massive, highly advanced data centers.
Notice the stark difference here between an investment that permanently upgrades society's capabilities versus an unproductive financial craze. A productive bubble actually advances human infrastructure. An unproductive bubble, like the 17th century tulip mania or the recent meme stock craze, just shuffles money around and leaves absolutely nothing of tangible value behind when it pops.
But here is what you really need to take away from this. Just because a bubble is productive for society doesn't mean it's safe for the companies involved. After the 1873 panic, over 120 railroad companies defaulted. The dot-com crash completely wiped out countless heavily funded internet darlings. A productive bubble always leaves a graveyard of bankrupt companies behind, sparing only the absolute strongest survivors.
Which leaves us with this final, critical thought. When this productive AI bubble finally bursts, and history strongly suggests it will, who will actually be left standing? Microsoft and Alphabet have massive profitable monopolies in software and search to fall back on if their AI bets take years to pay off. But what about the pure AI startups? When the dust settles, will pioneers like OpenAI survive the crash, or will this entire revolution simply end up belonging to the legacy tech giants? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.